Story 1. Am I the a-hole for walking out in the middle of Christmas dinner and shouting because of my husband's observation? So, ever since I had my son months ago, my husband has started making indirect comments about my body. He never says any hurtful words, but I find his observations, as he calls it, hurtful. For example, he'd see me wearing an old top and say, "Oh, that top used to look good on you, but not anymore though." Or when he looks at my waist and says, "Wow, didn't know your waist could get this wide." Basically, passive stuff that I tried to ignore till it extended to friends and family. FYI, this went on for months and months and months. We went to a Christmas celebration at his family's home. My sister-in-law complimented my floral maxi dress, and my husband said, "I agree it looks nice on you, though I have to admit that your waist could get smaller than this." Awkward silence took over. I was absolutely fuming, and this was my last straw. So I got up from my chair in the middle of dinner and shouted at the top of my lungs, "Shut the F up about my body." He was absolutely speechless as his family stared while some others tried to get me to calm down. But situation got more tense and dinner ended up being cut short, and my husband storming off to his friend's place to spend the night upon leaving a very nasty text saying I embarrassed him and made a scene over an observation he made. He called me childish and told me to get therapy for my insecurities instead of verbally abusing him and scarring his family. Now I feel like an absolute idiot a-hole and like I ruined Christmas for him and everybody with my oversensitivity. Am I the a-hole? Your husband deserves to get punched in the mouth. I don't know if I have to say more. I mean, obviously I'm joking and exaggerating, but your husband's an a-hole. Your husband's a piece of crap. I'm sorry to constantly bring up observations about your body after you've had a child and everything. Even if you hadn't had a child, if you had not had a child, but you were just aging and changing and you gained a little bit of weight, he would be completely out of line doing that. I mean, oh my God. He deserves like a sitcom-esque response to that, where like a 90s sitcom where if he goes, "Oh, you could stand to be smaller," you should just look at him and be like, "Well, you could stand to be bigger, but you don't hear me complaining." Like, seriously, what a prick. What a piece of garbage. I'm sorry. I hate this guy. The fact that he commented about your body, clearly other people were like, "Oh my God." And then you responded how you should have. And that he went over to his friends to be like, me, you hurt my feelings because you called me out for being a piece of crap. I hate him. I hope he gets punched in the wiener every day for the rest of his life. What a dink. Story 2. Where did you learn to speak English? England? This story took place 5 months ago, so it won't be exactly word for word, but I've remembered enough of the event to recite it, blah blah blah, you've all heard it before. So my stepmom is British, Welsh to be exact. For those who don't know, Wales is the little hump west of England and north of Cornwall. It's a beautiful place known for sheep, alcohol, and mistakes involving sheep and alcohol. My stepmom is ethnically Welsh, but raised in England. Despite this, my Nain and Tade, Welsh for grandma and grandpa, insisted on her and her brother learning Welsh to preserve their heritage. The Welsh are a proud people, and so they wanted to ensure their children were as immersed as they could be. So she grew up bilingual, went to uni, got a job working for a certain tech giant, and moved to the US to help train their staff. A few years later, she met my dad and joined the family. At the time, I was still getting over my mom, so her presence was less than welcome. Despite this, my stepmom never pushed me or tried to buy her way in. She gave me the room I needed to grieve, and when I was ready, showered me with enough affection to make up for the lost time. She has my eternal love and respect for it and has become my second mother. Now, we live in a large town in the Midwest, being west of the seaboard but east of the Mississippi, so while most people are open to outsiders, there's the usual few who just want to ruin everything. Around Christmas time, I was visiting home from college with my girlfriend, Charlie, whose awesomeness has been detailed in another post, enjoying some quality girls' time with my stepmom. We were in the mall searching for some place that sold plastic modeling glue for my dad. He's really into Warhammer. During this, my stepmom is on the phone with her brother, who still lives in the UK, catching up and sharing some laughs. They were speaking Welsh to each other, which happened to offend a woman who has since earned the title of Karen. We were standing in front of the mall map trying to find the hobby store when I heard a loud scoff from behind us. I turned to see a woman dressed in a rather nice-looking business suit corralling her kids away like they just encountered a streaker. Now, Now, I was ready to let it go, but Charlie can get very defensive of people she likes, so she ended up calling her out. Something offends you, ma'am? She seemed to ponder her next move before responding with that oh-so-stupid phrase, "You're in America. When you're here, you speak English, not Muslim. My kids don't need to hear that." Now, I've met some pretty stupid people in my life, even dated one, but never ever have I heard of someone confusing Welsh for Arabic, which is what I assumed she meant. They're two very different languages from two very different cultures. The only similarity between them is how little I understand them. However, for someone to be so offended by someone speaking another language, they probably also didn't immerse themselves too much in other cultures. To her, the world probably began in New York and ended in Los Angeles. It was at this point that my stepmom hung up. Now, I know that Americans get a bad rap and all, she said in an obvious British accent, but it doesn't help when you actively conform to the stereotype. "Oh my God," Karen said with righteous indignation. "Your accent is awful. Where did you even learn to speak English?" My stepmom held the most deadpan expression she could. "England." I swear I could smell the smoke coming from the flaming mess inside Karen's skull. She looked at Charlie and I, a pair of shockingly Caucasian college brats, and then my stepmom, our even paler chaperone, took a moment to process what she was doing, and then walked away, dragging a group of embarrassed-looking tweens with her. I have to give her credit, at least she knew when to quit. My stepmom chuckled, muttered an offensive-sounding Welsh phrase, and then helped us scan the map for the hobby shop. The rest of the day went well, and we had a funny story to tell my dad when we got back. To all my bigots out there who get offended when someone speaks another language, get over yourselves. The world doesn't revolve around you. To all my bilingual friends out there who speak their native tongues, good for you. It's important to keep your culture alive. And to Karen, next time you try to accost someone for speaking something other than English, at least get the right continent. What makes this worse is that she was clearly talking to someone on the phone in Welsh. It's a phone. It could connect anywhere in the world. She could have been talking to someone in a country that doesn't predominantly speak English, and therefore might have to speak a different, how do you see someone speaking a different language on a phone and be like, "How dare you? This is America, you gotta speak English." A, America doesn't have a national language. I'm almost positive of that. Yes, English is certainly the most predominantly spoken language here, but I don't think that we have on record an official language, so you people need to stop. And B, it's not like she's coming up to you in a store, Karen, and, trying to ask for help and not speaking English. She just came here expecting people to speak Welsh or Arabic, I guess. She's not confronting you with it. She's not forcing it upon you in any way. Mind your own business, Karen. Oh my gosh. Some people. Story 3. You say dogs barking is just what dogs do, huh? I had a neighbor that had a dog that, I crap you not, barked from about 7 p.m. till 5 a.m. non-stop. They worked nights, I believe. They kept it outside. I knocked numerous times and they said, "Dogs bark, what do you expect?" Their house was directly behind mine. We shared a divided wall. I recorded their dog for a full day. The minute they brought him in and felt like they were sleeping, I popped my phone onto the dock and played it on my stereo full blast facing their yard at 9 a.m. They came over raving mad to my wall by about 12, asking me to shut my dog up. I said, "It's your dog. I recorded him. Since you miss out on what dogs do, I'm just playing the radio at normal, allowable city time, and I will do this every day." They started bringing the dog in at night after that. Yeah, folks, I know that a dog will, bark when they initially see something, but if you take the time and train your dog, they won't just bark nonstop. I know this because I have 2 dogs, one of which is a Great Dane and has a big bark. And yeah, sometimes when she initially sees one of the neighbor dogs, she'll give, a little woo-woo or whatever, and then she stops. She gives a little acknowledgement, and she stops. I've gotten so many compliments from my neighbors about how my dogs don't just bark nonstop. It's not that hard. Also, I guess if it's got a good dog house, a dog could be outside all night and stuff, and you want it to be able to pee. I get it, but I don't know. Just don't do stuff like that. Don't make it your neighbor's problem. If your dog is gonna bark all the time outside and you can't figure out the training, you can't leave it outside to bark all night. That's not okay. So I'm glad that this person did what they did. Story 4. Entitled parents try to pimp me out to an entitled kid and try to ruin my life when I don't let them. This all happened around 10 years ago and takes place over the course of the absolute worst months of my life. I just turned 18 at the time, and thanks to my mom's gambling addiction, we lost the house that I had lived in my entire life. Almost right after we lost the house, a family friend offered to let us stay at her house with her family since she and her husband had a few extra rooms. We moved into their very large house, and at first, things were great. The family consisted of the EP, or the entitled parents, and their entitled kid, who was the same age as me. All of them were understanding and nice at first, offering to let me and my mom stay for as long as it would take for us to get back on our feet. Entitled mom even got me my first job working as a volunteer at a bingo hall. It was all under the table kind of money, but I didn't care since it was money in my pocket that my mom couldn't/wouldn't provide me. Entitled parents had been family friends for a very long time and are absolutely enamored with the idea of me and entitled kid getting together, and have been ever since we were little. They constantly made comments like, "Look at the beautiful couple, you two look so great together," or "We'll give you lovebirds some privacy," when we were in the same place together. Despite me stating several times that I didn't like him in that way, they were determined to try to get us to work like some kind of arranged marriage. I think that really fed into entitled kid's ego, because about a month into my stay is when the first incident happened. We were walking down the hall when he smacked my butt from out of nowhere. I really freaked out and went off on him, yelling, cursing, and giving him a few shoves. Our parents came upstairs to see what all the yelling was about, and we ended up getting separated. I tell my mom what happened, and she responded by telling me it wasn't a big deal and to not rock the boat while we were living there. Entitled kid eventually gives some half-butted apology to me at dinner, and his dad makes some joke about how he's relieved that he's finally taking an interest in girls since they were starting to think he was gay. Things proceeded to escalate from there. Any chance entitled kid got, he would make lewd comments or find some way to grope me. Every time I went to his parents, I was always hand-waved away as "boys will be boys," or "he probably didn't mean it that way," and "he was a really sweet guy deep down, and I should get to know him better." On one occasion, entitled dad told me that I should be flattered. My mom was content to not do anything, enjoying the freeloading that got to feed her addiction too much, and telling me to stop playing hard to get. One day, entitled kid put a hand down my shirt as I'm sitting on the couch, and I started yelling at him about how I'm sick of him doing stuff like this and to never do it again, but he gave me the most terrifying glare and told me, "Shut up, you live in my house." After that, I was so terrified of being alone with him that I would stay after school for as long as I could until I was asked to leave, and if I ever had to go back to the house for any reason, I would just hide in my room with the door locked and wouldn't come out until I knew other people were around, since I didn't know if one day he was just going to force himself on me. Fast forward a few months and I'm told, not asked, that I'm going with entitled kid as his date to his senior prom, which is in a week. Entitled parents are super excited and tell me that we'll have the whole house to ourselves that night after we come back from the dance. I very quickly shut that down and tell them that I'm not going because of how entitled kid treats me, and entitled parents spend the rest of the day doing everything they can to compel me. First, they try telling me money isn't an issue, how they'll pay for my dress and ticket. When that doesn't work, they try to guilt trip me, telling me how they ask for so little and how this is the least I can do and how much entitled kid would love it. Finally, my mom eventually hears about it after she comes home from the casino, and she's peed. She tells me how I need to go, how it's such a big opportunity for the both of us, and how I need to tell the entitled parents that I changed my mind. I refuse, and the day after entitled kid's prom is over, entitled parents sit me and my mom down for a talk. They start implementing new rules about how they expect us to pitch in for all the amenities, how we're expected to buy our own food, and how they're going to start charging us for rent. Before all this, they were very adamant about us not paying for anything, wanting us to save money to get back on our feet. Even without my mom spending half or all of her checks at the casino, there was no way for us to afford what they were asking, and they subsequently gave us a month to find our own place to move out. We ended up moving out to live in a sketchy neighborhood with some guy my mom was dating whom she'd met at the casino. My mom blames me for the entire thing, saying I blew a golden opportunity for both of us, how I basically threw away a great future that was all laid out for me because I wouldn't dance and put out. That cut me pretty deeply, and I still get angry thinking about it to this day. A few months later, I graduated, but my mom didn't show up to the ceremony. I came back to the house, and all my stuff is sitting on the curb next to the trash and had been thoroughly picked through. I found out my key doesn't work anymore, and nobody is picking up their phone. Ended up waiting till about 3 in the morning for them to come back from the casino, and my mom tells me in so many words that I'm on my own now. Nothing I say changes her mind, and I eventually pack what little of my stuff is left into my car. I spend the next month or two couch surfing or sleeping in my car while trying to pick up as many days as I could at work. Eventually, I managed to save up enough to move into my first apartment with a roommate. I haven't spoken to my mom or the entitled parents since, but recently my mom left me a voicemail asking if we could talk, since she didn't like the way we left things. Since then, she's been blowing up my phone every day. I don't plan on ever taking her call. Thank you for anyone who's read this far into my rant and venting. I didn't intend for it to be this long. Update, I'm going to sound cliche as hell, but I'm honestly overwhelmed by the amount of support I've received from you all. I would like to thank each and every one of you who left a comment, sent me a message, or offered advice as encouragement. I wish I could do something to repay you all, but now I would just like to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. First off, I'm extremely sorry for anyone who has to go through anything like that. What entitled kid was doing is assault. It is just assault, plain and simple. And for any of the parents to hand wave that off with the boys will be boys, or, oh, well, you should take it as a compliment. First off, no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. If you've made your boundaries clear, it's nothing but assault. And for parents and that person's mom to be like, oh, boys will be boys, that is just encouraging this person and warping their mind so they are going to be a predator. They are going to be someone that sadly women have to fear unless this entitled kid gets some therapy and learns what it is to be an actual empathetic good person, because it sounds like he's already turned into a monster with how he is acting. I'm glad that this poster was able to get out of that house. I am very sorry that the moment you graduated, you were kicked out. It just reinforces my belief that you owe family nothing. They have to earn your trust and respect, and you never owe your mom anything at this point. You do not ever have to take that call. You do not have to repair that relationship. You're completely justified in living a life without her ever in it again. And if that just breaks her little heart or something, that's her fault. She did that. And I hope you've found your own found family out there and you're living a better life now. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.